Connor Worley. Connor is a senior. You're almost there, Connor. Connor's a senior. It's custom at the May dinner that we ask a stellar graduating senior to address the alumni board and give us their 10 minutes or so of their experience at SLUH. Connor came to SLUH from down the street at St. James, the grade school in Dogtown. He's been very active at SLUH. He's run track. He's been involved in political clubs, including taking part in the Junior Bills in Washington program, correct? And service projects. He's going back to DC for college to attend Georgetown University, and he's plans to major in international relations, correct? Yeah. Please welcome Connor Worley from the class of 2018.
All right, excited to be up here. Thank you. It's nice to see all these smiling faces. Before I begin, I'd like to thank every single person in the audience right now, because without you and your generosity and your donations to SLUH, I would not be up here right now. I'm a financial aid student, and I require money to go here. My family's not able to cover the entire cost of attendance, and it's only through your generosity that students like me are able to come here. You have touched the lives of countless students who graduate every single year, and you make a tangible difference in their lives for the better. We graduate knowing that we can achieve our aspirations without fear of our family's financial burdens. So, that deserves a round of applause. Please give yourselves a pat on the back, something you deserve it. As Mr. Conroy said, I hail from Dogtown, just down the street. Like the last 3 generations of my family, I went to St. James the Greater, and I came to SLUH alone. No one else from my school applied. No one else from my family has ever attended. I was picked up from a class of 10 kids at St. James and dropped into a sea of nearly 300 boys, all of whom I didn't know. It was a rough transition, to say the least. I've been told that it's rough transitioning from grade school to high school, but especially at SLUH, it's difficult. That came to realization in Mr. Shudo's freshman theology class. At grade school, at St. James, you could write down Moses, Jesus in a religion class. You'll get a passing grade and they'll move you on. But for the first time in my life, I had a teacher who actually wanted us to pay attention to what the gospel readings were on Sunday. And not only pay attention, but trying to discern what the truth was being spoken by our pastor. So what Mr. Shudo does is for the first 2 weeks of every school year, he allows you to go through your assignments, participate in class as you normally would, and then he has everyone sit down and tally up their grades to see what you had at the end of that first 2 weeks. At the end of my first 2 weeks, I had a C+ in his class, and he asked us, "Are you satisfied with what grade you have right now?" And I wasn't satisfied. I owed it to myself, my parents, the people who were giving me financial aid to be here, to do better than that. I knew I was better than a C+ student, so I wanted to push myself. And what he did is he wiped the grade books clean. We got a fresh start. And that lit a fire underneath me to put my best self into every single assignment that I do while I was here, because I don't get a second chance. That's what that reminded me of. So I set to work just going at it. I hit the books hard. I was in Mr. Shudo's room every single day. I was talking to him how to be better organized, disciplined, open to new ideas. I was studying with friends. I was making friend groups through his room because people got together and studied in his class. And freshman year, I would consider an academic success. But the problem is, during that time, I forgot what else also made SLUH special, and that's the extracurriculars and the club activities. If I were to only go through my 4 years caring about what grade I have on Power School, it'd be unfulfilling, it'd be unsatisfying, because I've missed so much of what makes SLUH a wonderful place. So I, of course, swung to the opposite extreme my sophomore year, and during activity day, I signed up for so many clubs that my hand cramped. I was getting emails left and right from Medical Careers Club or the Ignatian Business Leaders, and my grades suffered because of it. I was trying to do too much, too fast, and I just hadn't found what was truly me yet. And I did find my little niche, what made me truly interested in my passion in life. But it came in the most unlikeliest of places. The 2016 election is where it happened. I just could not get enough of politics. I followed the debates, the primaries. I was just glued to every news feed that I could possibly listen to or watch because I just wanted to get more and more and more. So SLUH gave me the opportunity to express that. I came in as a freshman wanting to study mathematics at MIT. Purely coincidence that I watched Good Will Hunting for the first time that summer. And all of a sudden, I found myself taking classes that I normally would have never taken. I was thinking I was going to take calculus and biology, chemistry my senior year, and my junior year rolls around, and all of a sudden, I find myself signing up for microeconomics, comparative governments and politics, a European history class. I had changed so much from the freshman who thought he knew what he wanted to do. And besides classes, I also got to express myself through the clubs. Like I said, I trimmed down all the clubs I was in. I started participating in the Missouri Youth and Government Club with Mr. Hannick and Mrs. Beckvar, where we get to draft mock bills and go to the state capitol and sit in the state legislature and debate them as we would a real bill. I started to participate in the Political Expression Club, where we want to foster diverse political opinions and have good discussions about them. No hostility in the group at all. We just want to be able to express ourselves without any bias. And also, I was a part of the inaugural Junior Bills on DC trip. That was where Mr. Zinselmeyer and Mrs. Beckvar took a group of 10 juniors, and we went to the DC area, and we saw SLUH alums who were making a difference and working in government and politics in the DC area. That sealed the deal for me. That experience absolutely floored me because I saw people who would walk the same hallways as I have, spent 4 years here just as I had, and they were making a tangible difference in what I wanted to do, in the field that I wanted to go into. It was amazing. That is what I truly found spectacular. I further reinforced that when I went to the Ignatian teach-in with Mr. Hannick, where I got to see what Ignatian solidarity and Jesuit theology can do, being put into action for the common good. We got to lobby congressmen and women about issues that the Catholic Church tells us about. And that's where I found my true love, was in politics. And without SLUH, that never would have been possible. But a SLUH High senior, as we know at the grad, should be more than just intellectually competent and open to growth. There's also this very important religious and spiritual aspect to our growth while we're here at SLUH. As a freshman, you could say that I was underdeveloped spiritually. I'm a cradle Catholic, so what I did, I just mimed my parents at Mass and just, called it a week. That was good. But SLUH High challenged me to develop spiritually as I would develop my mind and my body here in 4 years. And they didn't just preach that. They set it by example. And what I mean by that is my sophomore year, my grandfather died. And my grandfather, he was the world to me. He was like my own father. My parents were often working, so it was my grandfather's responsibility to pick me up from school, take me to and from practices, attend games, get on me about doing my homework and keeping my grades up. And he was just such an important figure in my life because of that. I saw him all the time. And when he died, it crushed me. It was a hard time for my family and I. And when I came back to school, I still wasn't there all the way. I was still in a very dark place. This one question just kept running through my mind over and over again. How could a God that I love so much take away someone who I care about so much as well? How could he take away my grandfather? And I was struggling with that. I really was. But what I saw with the way students and teachers approached and interacted with me, the love and brotherhood that I experienced, it renewed my faith. It strengthened it because I knew this is what truly brotherhood is. People were caring for me on the most individual level and caring about what issues I was going through and trying to lift me back up instead of just blowing by me and continuing on with my day. Another place where I developed spiritually was on my senior project trip to Puerto Rico. As we all know, in September, Hurricane Maria struck the island of Puerto Rico. caused catastrophic damage, and the media, the government, and the mainland population of the United States, we just forgot about it. We really didn't do too much. And Ignatian and Jesuit theology tells us that we have to look beyond ourselves to the margins of society. So that means I was obligated to do what I could in order to help these people. I was only one person. I'm not FEMA. I can't pick up the slack for a government agency, but I wanted to do my part, as I said, because theology obligates me to. And when I went there, I was expecting to see twisted heaps of metal where buildings were washed away, gang violence, rampant poverty. And I did see those things. Those things were all very prominent during the trip. But what really shook me the most while we were there was optimism. Every single place that we went in Puerto Rico, there was nothing but celebrations in the streets, neighbor willing to sacrifice their own roof to another neighbor. And church too. There was, in a little town of Guaynabo, there was this group of nuns who we stayed with. They had no electricity. Their water had just come back on for the first time, yet they opened up their homes to us. The group that I went with, 2 teachers and 6 other students, they were out there working with us, clearing bamboo, downed power lines. Even though some of them were advanced in age, well into their 80s and 90s, they were out there every single day with us. They would feed us lunch free of charge. And it truly struck me like the compassion and the goodness of people, even through the most trying of times. So, sorry. So I've spent 4 years here at SLUH. That's a meager 2% of the history of this prestigious institution. And it reminds me just how valuable our time is here. The bonds we forge here, the brotherhood we forge here, it's incredible. And that's why that was our class's reason for not making the clock, but donating the clock, to show the duality of time here at SLUH. We thought there was no better way to express the duality of time here at SLUH than with the clock, because we have to realize at the same time that our 4 years here is precious and short, but the bonds we form will last forever. So, thank you very much. I was told to open the floor for questions. Yes, sir. I'll be going to Georgetown next year. Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Any other questions? I don't know yet, but as Mr. Conroy said, I'm leaning towards international relations. Yes, sir, back there. I did hear the question, yes. He was asking whether we ran into a troop, Boy Scout troops. Oh, from around the country. We did not, so it was people who from around the country came down to rebuild a Boy Scout camp. All right. No, we did not run into them. We did run into people from around the country, though. There were some people from Ashburn, North Carolina, who were there with a Baptist church, and they helped us rebuild a school for impoverished kids. So that was great to see them down there. Nice accents on those people, I'll tell you that. Yes. Yes, sir. After leaving SLUH, I'm familiar with Chinese. I also took 1 semester of Arabic and the very limited Spanish that I picked up in Puerto Rico. Yes. Yes, sir. Oh, I think that's a better question for Mr. Laughlin, actually. Yeah. Yes, sir. I did know Father Houlihan was also a Dogtown boy. I did. Yes. Yes, sir. That's an excellent question. My friends and I think about that all the time. We think, if we were a freshman, what would we tell ourselves? And the biggest thing I would tell myself is to be open. You're 14 years old. You have no idea what you want to do with your life. I'm 18 and I think I have an idea, but to be honest, I'm not really sure. But try as much as you can. Don't overwhelm yourself, but just be open to all the opportunities that SLUH can provide, because it's insane the things that I've been able to do that I never thought I would have been able to do here at SLUH. Again, yes, sir.
Honors event for others. Would you consider, after you complete your first year at Georgetown, contacting the school and offer to be a welcoming person for SLUH graduate next year coming to Georgetown, help them out?
Oh, absolutely. I plan on it. If there was a freshman or, a senior who was going to Georgetown while I was at Georgetown, I'd want to do everything in my power to make sure that they feel welcome in my new community. That's a #1 priority, in fact. Yes. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Connor. What a terrific young man. I'm glad he reminded us about financial aid. You know, there's a lot of people who go to this school, including myself, who wouldn't have been able to go here except for the gifts from previous people. And I think I've probably told Dick Meehan the story 3 times, 10 times probably. I think tuition was $700 when I went here, and I got $250 in work study and $250 as a grant. So I ended up, parents paid $200 to go. They would have never, it was cheaper than DeBerg, which was the next best option for us in South St. Louis. But the kids, it's such a great story about St. Louis U High, giving kids whose parents don't have as much the opportunity to be on the same footing as every other kid who goes here, and coming out and changing their lives. So I'm glad you brought that up, Connor, and just a terrific job, Connor, on your speech. So this is my last meeting as Alumni Board President. It's also Dave Laughlin's last Alumni Board meeting, I suppose. Dave, if you want to come up, I should say it's an incredible time. We're losing Dave, and our loss is Kansas City's gain. But it's going to be really tough to be at these meetings and not have you here. And you've just been an incredible resource for the school and leader. And thank you for everything you've done. And Dave's going to give a school update.
You know, there's a couple of alumni who work here every day who are looking around like, what's this about? So when I grow up, I want to be like Connor Worley. Thank you, Connor. Beautiful words. And I don't know what your future holds, but I watched your public speaking ability, and I know you wrote it out, and I think you might have looked down less than 5 times. Spoke from the heart. Segued the hardest question about ties to somebody else. So you might have a future in this government thing if you keep going. Really beautiful words. And guys like Connor, I tell them as they come in as 8th graders, we don't have a great school because we had a great school. We only have a great school if the guys who show up every day really pour themselves into the place. And we're fortunate to have a great faculty and staff, but we're fortunate to have a building full of guys like Connor who, they're teenagers and they're not perfect. They're human beings. But boy, I think when we compare our world of the young guys that walk in the door, we're pretty blessed. And we've got guys who really want to get after it. And he's a great example of that. So thank you, Connor. So I broke my school year update into kind of 3 parts. Somebody said, how long is this going to last? I said, maybe until people start walking out. I don't know. But I just wanted to give you kind of a general school year update, talk a little bit about the bicentennial year, and then say thank you to you all as alumni board members in my time as the president of the school. I'm just gonna start by talking about the great families that exist in this school over many years. There's so many, and I've talked to so many people tonight. My father, my grandfather, my brothers, my nephews, my cousins, all of that history that's here. St. Louis U High really is this extended community that's amazing. In the room tonight is the first alumnus that I ever heard from when I was named president in the spring of 2004, Dick Meehan. Dick, class of 70, sent me an email and saying, please allow me to be the first father of a 7th grader to introduce himself to you. And connecting the Meehan family tree, I had the fortune of meeting their father, who's a Backer Award winner and a judge, and God rest his soul, he's intervening for us in heaven these days. But Judge Meehan gave me a book, God's Angels, about the Jesuits and the mission that they carried at the time that basically, historically, they were kicked out of England and they went back and sacrificed their lives for faith. And then one time I came to an alumni board Christmas luncheon, and Pat Meehan, I was new, I didn't really know, and I didn't wear a tie, and I was undressed for not wearing a tie. So I gave Pat my tie, which he's wearing tonight, I think, right? And then I didn't wear a tie again. So much so that today we're on our first day of exams and the boys are in shorts and t-shirts. And I ran into a member of our staff and they said, what's up with you have alumni board meeting, don't you? I said, I'm scared of Meehan, so I'm not showing up in a tie. We are finishing another great school year. We have 2 more days of exams and we have graduation for the bicentennial class, Connor's class. The baccalaureate is here this Saturday evening, and graduation is Sunday at Peabody Opera House. And that, when you think about the history, I think the only other meeting I was able to attend was this first one this year of this group. You know, every time I pause and think 200 years, and you put it in the context of our country, of the Jesuits, of Catholic education, whatever, it's really a remarkable, almost unimaginable thing to capture and name what that means as one institution. There are so few places that are 200 years old like St. Louis U High. Here's a quick update of what's happening besides guys taking exams and that these days. We have 961 advanced placement exams in 22 disciplines, 466 different students, including this year 2 freshmen who are taking the Human Geography Advanced Placement Exam, 9th graders. We have a whole cohort of 153 sophomores taking the AP World History exam, and like I said, on up to 961 exams. School used to, after this week, for many of you, go quiet and stay quiet until we started school, but I think most of you know the school really in some ways is a year-round operation. So we take this quiet respite after graduation, and soon after, about a week after, we start summer school. What happens around here in the summer? We have 30 kids in a biking class, 60 in yoga, 30 taking the Katy Trail overnight bike trip, 26 in strength and conditioning, 24 in rock climbing, 11 in business entrepreneurship, 12 in summer poetry, 100 in sophomore theology, 50 in junior theology, and that doesn't count any of our incoming freshmen, where 171 in June will take a computer class, and another 50 in July. 115 will take a health and PE class in June, and another 43 in July. In addition to that, we have 31 incoming freshmen taking grammar, 47 reading, 38 math. Our incoming freshman class is a very, very strong class of 247 young men, and like all our other classes, they come from almost 100 zip codes and almost 100 feeder schools all around the metropolitan area. I didn't even talk about sports camps that happen on our campus in the summer. We have a robotics camp that happens on our campus in the summer. But literally, this school is a year-round operation with all sorts of different tangents in the summer. What other things would I want you to know about the semester? Well, Our senior class decided for their, I guess you call it senior prank, to help those alumni who had taken stock in 3M. Because they took what I would estimate between 50 and 100,000 Post-it notes, and they covered the hallways, the elevators. They were everywhere. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I would guess 50,000 is probably a minimum. It was amazing, and the fact that it was harmless and all that was even wonderful. Oh, back to accomplishments. You might have heard about our band that traveled on a bicentennial trip to Rome, and I'm so happy for the Pope that he had a chance to meet some kids from St. Louis U High. I'm pretty sure on his bucket list this year that was met. Much more quietly, but still impressive, not too many weeks later, our choir made a trip and performed on a 50th anniversary for a program at Carnegie Hall in New York City that was quite prestigious. We talk, perhaps, I hope you read about all of those great accomplishments, and it seems like our culture wants to give athletics lots of headlines, and no doubt our kids have lots of success in that. You know, we won a hockey state championship, and I haven't quite figured this out, but we got a racquetball second place in state, but we won the national championship. So all I know is that I think they call that sandbagging in most things. But our kids in athletics, in academics, in the arts, really do unbelievable things. We have had 6 members of the class of 2019 score a 36 on the ACT, and when you consider that they still have the June and September test dates to go, that is incredible. There are states in the union that don't have 6 perfect scores. And that tradition of that kind of level of intellectual achievement is remarkable. For next school year, we have about 410 of our students who will be on $4.1 million of scholarship, somewhere in the low 40%, with the average award almost $10,000. Connor alluded to it in his own personal testimony, but never take for granted the unique position of St. Louis U High to not only articulate what it means to live Catholic social teaching, but to actually do as Ignatius said, love is shown more in deeds than words, but to make that a reality. This place is in rarefied air when it comes to the opportunities for students from all walks of life, and that's thanks in large part to guys like you who not only give yourself, but who champion this cause for other people. And I think there is nothing more noble about St. Louis U High than its willingness to stay really committed in its history to this ideal that we allow kids to come regardless of their family's economic circumstance. I'm really thrilled. We've had involvement here of faculty, of students. We've had involvement of trustees. We've had involvement of alums. But just last week, I think we announced that St. Louis University High School was one of only 46 schools in the United States, primary schools, middle schools, and high schools, and the only school in the state of Missouri and the only Jesuit high school in the United States to be named by the United States Department of Education with their Green Schools Award for efforts that have been happening here over many years on environmental and operational sustainability. And I think it's even more remarkable when you consider the age of our facility. You know, so much of a 93-year-old building in terms of its systems and its management can only be changed over very slowly. You know, we're not building brand new buildings straight up from the ground. And that takes a tremendous commitment on the part of our facility staff, on the educators that are here, on the engagement, frankly, of alums who gave us guidance. But it's been a great commitment, and I think it's a unique recognition for the school that I hope you saw about. This is embargoed. I'm not supposed to announce it, but I'll say it anyway, and then I'll deny it. We'll be named one of the top workplaces in St. Louis for the 6th consecutive year in June, and that really is a reflection of, I think, the mission-centeredness of the faculty in terms of their own self-evaluation of what the school's work means. Again, school updates. Spring sports, I'm sure I don't have all this right. It just happens so much. Tonight, our volleyball team is playing in the state semifinals. I mentioned a couple of sports earlier. Water polo not only won a state championship, they won a JV championship. John Panelia right here, coach. And Coach Paul Bodendistel, who's an alum, was inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is, I think, our second water polo coach. Charlie Busenhart is in that Hall of Fame as well. Lacrosse has semifinals tomorrow night. We've got rugby was a state runner-up. We have qualifiers who are ongoing in track and tennis. Baseball went through 2 rounds of playoffs before they lost, and golf had, I think, 2 all-state guys. I'm sure I've probably forgotten something. But all I would say is, for a regular school year update, you know, I think the grace of the place is you could go on and on and on, and the accomplishments of the kids and the faculty here are really unparalleled and wonderful. So the place is clicking right into summer school in high gear. I want to just do a bicentennial year update, and I knew I'd be talking for a few minutes, so I thought I'd break it up because we have to sing. It's the birthday, and everywhere I go, we sing. Did we sing at the first meeting of the year? We're singing at this meeting of the year, and I might do a solo if you don't join me. But you don't get to do a 200th anniversary once. And one of the greatest ways I know when we talk about a commitment to life is just to recognize life and birthdays. And so for me, that's been an inspiration to always sing happy birthday. It just recognizes the sacredness of life. So before I do my bicentennial summary, please join me. Happy birthday to SLUH. Happy birthday to SLUH. Happy birthday to SLUH. Happy birthday, dear SLUH. Probably in the bottom half of the groups I had sing this year, but you guys are okay. No one tells you how to celebrate a bicentennial, and there's no way in a few minutes I could capture all that's taking place. I think it was great that God decided to put an eclipse during our bicentennial so we could start our school year with that science kind of awe of creation moment. We had a school day that was a community-wide day of service in October. Many of you helped with different aspects of that. We had a very special cash bar where we had 2 sizable commitments, both to the idea of scholarship assistance, surrounded by volunteers and donors who made a very special evening for the school, where with $1 million challenge honoring his parents from a member of the class of '64, Tom Schilly, we had the SLUH community step forward and commit $1.5 million for the success of CashBot to not only meet that challenge, but to exceed it. And then we had the blessings of 3 alums and their spouses, and Mr. Pat Stokes and his wife, Aya, who committed a $1.2 million gift for the graduates of Loyola Academy to attend our school in the name of Father Paul Sheridan, the Sheridan Scholars. So I think as a public statement about the values of the school, the dollars and cents are one thing, but the public statement about what this school stands for from that night, to me, was a special moment for the bicentennial. We also had in April what was called Common Good Day. Our theme for the school year was the Catholic social teaching on the common good and our responsibility for that. And we invited about 40 alums in and out of town. Many came from out of town to come back. We had a wonderful keynote address here in the Commons, followed by alumni who spent 3 different sessions all day with our students. And I had one student tell me, Mr. Laughlin, this was called Common Good Day. This should have been called Heroes Day. I heard the most unbelievable presentations from alums. And we talked as a staff that was only 40 of our guys. Like there's 12,000 of them with such incredible stories. And the reality is that opportunity for our kids in our bicentennial year was especially impactful, to hear the breadth of the ways that they've committed their lives to the common good. And then on the 21st of April, we had just a glorious bicentennial mass and celebration. Many of you helped with that, so I thank you for that. God was good to us with the weather. It was part parish picnic, it was part open house, and it was part reunion weekend. And it just couldn't have gone better, from the celebration of the Eucharist to the opportunity to just be with and around people who love the place. And then we almost set the Joe Schulte Theater on fire with some fireworks. So that was good. And then Tony mentioned the clock tower, and I just want to add my words to Connor and Tony's comments. You know, this bicentennial class, every year that guys have a banner that hangs in the chapel that's their senior class banner, and they're always very good themes. And I think one of the things that I appreciated most about this senior class's choice of their theme for their banner, I don't even know if they've heard this from me yet, was they chose the theme 200 Years of Brotherhood. Now, adolescence is a generally fairly self-centered way of proceeding. And Father Arupe didn't have it wrong when he said, men for others, women for others, that's our aspiration, because he knew as educational institutions we're moving people beyond themselves. But in our bicentennial, this class could have turned the spotlight on themselves and said, we're the 200th class, we're the bicentennial class, and instead they spread that out to everybody who'd come before them. And then they had the inspiration of saying, we want to do this clock tower. And you heard the articulation of the passage of time and this special moment. But they were also trying to create yet another place around the campus, thinking generations ahead, like the pool hall, like the statue of St. Ignatius, et cetera, where people could say, let's meet at the clock tower. Let's come after graduation and take a picture at the clock tower. And I'm just so inspired by their willingness to live in this bicentennial year, not focused on their class, but on what this place means, and not only for the past in their class theme, but what it could mean in the future with the establishment of something as simple as a clock tower. And last, I guess I always open it up for questions, but I think I told myself, if I talk long enough, they won't ask questions. I just want to thank you for your support of the school as members of the alumni board. When I came here in 2005 and I was learning a lot of things, members of this group, many of whom are still here in the room tonight, have consistently been helpful to this school. And this school is a tremendous miracle. I know I said it to you in the fall, I've said it to audiences. My greatest reflection on the bicentennial is that for 200 years, this is an elective place. The Jesuits chose to come take a school over that was a fledgling school. Every parent who ever sent their child here chose to do so. Every donor who ever gave $1 here chose to do so. Every building on the campus, every scholarship ever given, every diploma ever granted was the choice of people who said, this place and its eternal purpose and its role in the world matters. And I think that you're here because you love the school, and yeah, there's some free beer and tacos tonight. Free is really relative when we hit you up for checks, but still it's free. But you've supported me, you've called me out, you've asked hard questions, you've rallied around things that I've asked or we've asked. You've been St. Louis's 2 degrees of separation, where I could announce things at a meeting and know that 2 nights from now I'd run into somebody and say, hey, I heard about St. Louis U High. And I think more than any phone-a-thon you've ever run and more than any volunteer position you've ever had, I have to imagine in your busy lives that the reason that you've been so committed to the place is that deep down, whether it's clear for you or not, you understand that this place is connected to an eternity that you just don't have for 200 years when it's an entirely elective place. If God's not at the core, if the Holy Spirit's not at work, and that calling that we have for why we ultimately exist, beyond a test score, beyond an achievement or a championship, really, really matters. And so from the bottom of my heart, you know, you've inspired my faith, you've shaped me, you've formed me, and I've been honored to serve. If I cannot make anybody mad the next month, I might be invited back from time to time. But I just want to say thank you for being part of this group. Thank you for being part of this enterprise. And so much of why we exist is for guys like Connor Thank you for making sure that the school could continue to be a place that shapes their lives, because that is ultimately beyond all of the other announcements that we have and all the other activities that we have. At the end of the day, it's a guy who can stand up here and articulate where he went from Dogtown to being headed to a premier university in Washington, D.C., because he's gained an insight for his life socially, with an intellectual purpose, and in faith. So thank you for supporting guys like Connor and these young men. God bless you. Prayers always.
All right, thank you so much, Dave, for everything. It is really my pleasure now to introduce Jeff Rombach, who's going to take this job over from me. So, Jeff, you're on.
All right. Tony, obviously we have something for you from me, Dick, and Burns.
It's the Rolex, isn't it?
It's the Folex.
Full.
This is for you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good luck. I'm going to leave you to go.
It's actually great connectivity that you give a watch, right, with the clock tower and the watch, and it's timeless, and really Tony's passing it on to me, just like John did to him and everybody before that. And how humble is Dave Laughlin? I mean, guy's unbelievable. We look up, I'll speak for myself, I look up to him every day, and he stands here thanking us. It's amazing. And Connor, holy cow, you're going to be something. Congratulations. And I was also thinking, remember when like summer school was for the dummies? And now it's for all the smart kids. And I'm trying to figure out with my kids, what are they going to do this summer? You know, they're not just going to sit there and watch TV. They're going to be smart. They're going to go to summer school. So a couple Chinese programs at WashU and all that. We'll figure something out. But, and I'd probably be remiss to my mom to not mention that I have no idea what it costs to go to school here when I went here, but we didn't pay a dime. So we were the recipients of that as well. And I know my brother and I and both my sisters went to NARICS for free, scholarship, nothing's free. So we see this every day as a way to give back and to be a part of those who came before us, who some did, and it doesn't mean anything if you had to pay here to go here. You know, you're no better of a person or no less, but everybody comes from different situations, and this is one place in St. Louis, founded in St. Louis, with St. Louis in the name, where everybody in the city can get together from all different zip codes. Tony's kids are coming from St. Charles or St. Peter's. There's only one kid coming from St. Peter's. And I was just talking to him about the experience that he's going to get to be able to come and spend time with people that aren't from St. Peter's, aren't from his background, by the city, by Forest Park, by the Science Center. It's really an amazing thing, what we have here at St. Louis U High. I'll be brief. I've already been long, but a couple announcements from Joe. Tom Ehrman, class of 71. Tom, are you here? Tom Ehrman. Tom's going to take Tony's spot on the board. He's a senior VP at Gershman, commercial real estate. We'll be talking. I also do commercial real estate. Joe said he's been on the alumni board for 20 years, which is amazing, probably more. In addition to his alumni board volunteer roles, Tom's been a volunteer on the Go Forth Capital Campaign, and he'll serve as an officer for 4 years and be president in his 4th year. And I would never call Joe Packey a liar, but he called me up 3 or 4 years ago when my wife was sitting at home with 2 young twins. They weren't even 1 year old yet. My daughter was 2 or 3 years old. And he goes, "Hey, we want you to join the alumni board." I said, "Joe, don't call me." I hung up. The next day he calls me back. "Hey, we really actually want you to join the alumni board." Joe, I talked to my wife. We are not doing this. 3rd time he calls me up, and if Joe, 25 years. So I said, yes. He goes, "Don't worry. You're not going to have to do anything for 4 years." So that is not true, especially in bicentennial years. But it's been great. And And I'll say this about who we are. I've heard some people call this a drinking club. Some people call it a relationship club. I've always felt we're ambassadors. You know, so Dave and Melissa and Joe and Sean and Pania, they can all tell us about the school, and Ben, they can all tell us about the school, and we can go out and tell everybody else, hey, here's all the great things that are going on at SLUH. This is what's going on in the community. Here's how we've been involved. Here's the robotics club. I mean, everybody knows about SLUH's robotics club. In addition to the phone-a-thon, which they mentioned, you know, Tony mentioned we want to get to 30%. The only way you do that is by making personal phone calls, just to let people know we didn't forget you. You know, if you don't ask, people won't give. And if they don't feel remembered, they might not be there the next day. It's not that they don't care, it's just maybe they didn't get a call. So those things are all important. You know, we're the ambassadors, and obviously we like to drink, but we like to get together and have fun, but we're those ambassadors. Just to wrap it up, the Father Hagen Alumni Golf Cup is June 22nd. Most of you received an email from me or from somebody. Joe sent out the link, so be sure to go to that link and sign up. I'm sure we're over half full already, right? Last year we sold out. We were turning people away. It was amazing. So don't be turned away. Thursday, August 23rd, tentative board meeting. And then Friday, November 16th, which I believe is the true 200th anniversary. That is also, according to the city of St. Louis, it was dedicated St. Louis U High Day, which is an amazing thing. Not many institutions have that ever, much less a high school. So we are dedicated for November 16th as St. Louis U High Day. There are a bunch of events that are going to happen. It's not going to be the same as the bicentennial, but it's going to be a lot of fun. There'll be a lot of opportunities to get together. We'll hear about it more in August, but mark your calendar for that day. And Joseph, is there anything else?
Tony had alluded to the list that I have. We run out. I've got more I can send you electronically, but I'm going to sit at the table and answer questions about them. But we're asking you, these are guys who have made a gift either last year or the year before. Now, by year, I mean our school year, July 1 to June 30th. That's what we report in our gratitude report every year. So these are guys who made a gift last year or the year before, but we haven't heard from this year. And I have lists back there by class with their phone number and their email address. We'd ask you, you know, as part of that effort, hit that 30% for the year. If you take a look at that list and go through and however many that you feel comfortable reaching out to, we'd really like you to reach out to those guys. And at this point, it's just a reminder. I think as Tony pointed out, a lot of them are intending to give, and June 30th is going to sneak up on them. And so without a little reminder, a little nudge from somebody they trust or somebody whose name they know, whose email they'll open, or call they'll take, June 30th might slip by and they might not get them in this year. So in order to hit that 30% we set for ourselves as a goal, that we also set as a goal at our meeting we had last summer, we really hope we'll get your support with that. And I'll sit at that table and hand out those lists. And if you have any questions, you can ask. But thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, the bags on the tables are for you all. Mark Favaz is my best friend. I'm heading there right after this. So anybody who wants to go, first round's on me. Have a great summer. David, congratulations. I'll see you in Kansas City, and we'll see everybody else in August. Thank you.
What do you want to spend?
Would have worn a tie if I know.
Yeah, Ian should call you up.
I a little bit disappointed when they didn't get over. I know you do.